Cinematic history is full of people whose lives were cut tragically short, just before they made it big. Some of these, like Adrienne Shelley, were already successful and well-known within their circles, and were just a few steps away from taking their fame to a higher level. A native New Yorker, Shelley found success in indie films and off-Broadway productions. Eventually, she pushed her limits further behind the cameras, and she became equally as successful as both a writer and director. Off the set, Shelley met and married Andy Astroy, a marketing executive. They had a strong and loving relationship, and the couple had a daughter in 2003. All of that came to a sudden and horrific end, when she was found hanging in the Greenwich Village apartment she used as an office, on November 1, 2006. Police initially thought she had committed suicide, but family and friends didn't believe it. Crime scene evidence also didn't support the suicide theory. To some, it felt like an unsolved Hollywood case. Why would anyone kill the successful indie multi-hyphenate? By all appearances, it seemed Shelley had taken her own life. However, there was other evidence at the scene that raised a few unanswered questions. Muddy footprints left by a Reebok shoe found on the toilet lid and the edge of the bathtub had authorities wondering if there was something more to this case. An autopsy of Shelley's body revealed she had been killed by neck compression, which was consistent with the apparent self-hanging. However, police still had reasonable doubts. Andy Astroy never believed his wife had committed suicide. She was excitedly waiting to hear whether or not her latest movie, Waitress, had been accepted to the prestigious 2007 Sundance Film Festival. Not only that, Shelley adored her young daughter. Family and friends also maintained that Shelley would never have killed herself. Astroy begged police to investigate further. The muddy footprints were a standout item at the crime scene. Police determined the mud had come from gypsum dust, which most likely would have come from a construction area. Shelley's clothes were completely clean. This lessened the chance it was Shelley who had left them, which meant someone else could have been in the apartment. Authorities began searching for construction sites in the area and quickly found one in an apartment directly below Shelley's. There, they found clear shoe imprints that matched the ones at the crime scene perfectly. Once they had found the footprints in the construction zone that matched the crime scene, police immediately began to search for a matching suspect. They discovered the work being done there was overseen by a contractor named Luis Hernandez. When questioned, Hernandez said one of his workers had recently been wearing Reebok brand shoes to the job. His name was Diego Pilco, a 19-year-old, from Ecuador, who had entered the country a few months prior and couldn't speak any English. When police went to his Brooklyn apartment and questioned him, he immediately confessed to killing Shelley. Diego Pilco claimed while he was working at the site, Shelley had come in and complained to him about all the noise he was making. However, Pilco couldn't speak English. Their inability to communicate caused their tempers to flare. The argument soon escalated into a screaming match. Finally, Shelley threatened to call the police and began walking back upstairs to her office. Although he couldn't understand any English, Diego Pilco understood Shelley's body language and intent well enough to realize she was going to call the police. As he entered the U.S. undocumented, he was afraid authorities would come and deport him. Pilco charged out of the apartment after Shelley, quickly reaching her outside of her office. The two began to argue again, but this time, Shelley slapped him. The already enraged and scared 19-year-old then claimed he punched her. The blow struck her hard, and she began falling backward. Before he knew what was happening, Shelley's head struck a table before she hit the floor. She stayed on the ground, unmoving, and Pilco was convinced she was dead. While he hadn't meant to cause Shelley's death in Greenwich Village that day, he certainly had. Pilco allegedly told the police that he was having a bad day and he didn't mean to kill her. But he did. Diego Pilco said it was accidental. He was terrified of being deported, which had brought him to her office in the first place. The last thing Pilco wanted was to return to Ecuador. Thinking quickly, he dragged Shelley into her apartment and took her to the bathroom. There, he took a sheet and wrapped it around her neck, and then he hung her from the shower rod to make it look like she had committed suicide. He then vacated the scene but left his distinguishing footprints behind. Diego Pilco was sent to jail for killing Shelley. He was charged with murder in the second degree and was facing a possible life term in prison. While police were pleased they had caught Pilko and he was behind bars, some were still bothered by the complete absence of gypsum dust on Shelley's clothing, which contradicted his account. Authorities contended that if she had been in the apartment being renovated by Pilko as he had claimed, then she would have had at least some dust on her. In an unexpected turn of events, Pilko changed his confession amidst the legal haranguing between the prosecution and the defense. This time, he told the complete truth about what had happened to Shelley. After a legal deal, Pilko pled guilty to the first-degree manslaughter to escape life imprisonment. Soon after, the 19-year-old confessed to the court what had happened to Shelley on November 1, 2006. After seeing Shelley in the building after lunch, Pilko decided to rob her. He followed Shelley to her office and noticed she had left the front door open. Pilko went inside and stole some money from her purse. Shelley caught him in the act and immediately picked up the phone to call the police. Panicked, Pilko ran over and covered her mouth to silence her. Then, grabbing a sheet nearby, he strangled Shelley to death, and then he staged the suicide. Shelley had been eagerly waiting to see if her latest film, Waitress, had been accepted by the 2007 Sundance Film Festival. It had been a long-time dream of hers to have a movie premiere there, and she spoke with the movie's producer, Michael Royf, about the possibility of it during their last conversation. Unbeknownst to her, the film had already been accepted. After her death, it was introduced at Sundance by Andy Astroy and Royf, and it premiered to standing ovations. Later, Waitress was turned into a highly successful Broadway play, and garnered 4 Tony Award nominations. Andy Astroy was madly in love with his wife and was immensely supportive of her career. He was also aware of the struggles that she had as a female director. After her death, Astroy established a foundation dedicated to her memory. The Adrienne Shelley Foundation awards grants, living allowances, and scholarships to women who want to become film directors. Thanks in part to grants received from the foundation, director Cynthia Wade's standout documentary Freeheld won an Academy Award in 2008.